There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
Hey people, what is up and welcome into the Program Guys podcast. I'm Patrick Hertzberger. Joined with me today is Mark Hall and Matthew Gann. Remember to like and subscribe to the program, really helps us out. Follow us on all social media, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all of those things. And you can find us at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, whatever that is. Yeah, you can find us anywhere. Guys, how are we feeling?
Good, baby. Good, baby. Spring ball is in its throes. It's spring break this week, so they're not actually playing. Measles are afoot, but we're avoiding them as best we can. And just doing my best here, right? Going to root for Oklahoma basketball on Friday. This is a good place to be.
Boomer.
Basketball on Friday, women Saturday. Both programs making the tournament, so a lot of good OU news ahead. But like I always said, another week, another dollar. No Mason today. He's on vacation with his wife and his family in the Bahamas. Hope he's having a good time. Have a beer on us. He's been crushing it. And great updates from him, and probably many more to come.
Yeah,
and RT, we can't forget about the guy. Just doing future fatherly duties. RT.
An announcement that hasn't been made on the pod yet, but there it is.
But there it is. Someone had to break it.
We'll see if Ryan listens to this one and then lets us know he heard that.
I'll stop listening forever.
One, he won't. Two, that to me.
Yeah.
That's a maybe. But let's jump into some Oklahoma football news. Not that there really is any. However, Jim Nagy and his team are continuously making headlines with their development of the organization, our new front office. Jim Nagy hiring Taylor Reid?
Red.
Two D's, though, because one is not enough for him.
Never enough.
Mark, could you just kind of explain the Taylor Reid hire, what Jim Nagy's trying to build here for Oklahoma?
Yeah, absolutely. So Taylor Reid comes directly from the Athletes Group, which is the company that Jake Rosenberg, a former Philadelphia Eagles executive, formed to consult with universities like our own. So the Athletes Group has been working with Oklahoma since the beginning of the GM search to try and identify exactly who that person should be. Apparently, Rosenberg himself was considered for the job and did not really vibe with it. So he and Red were instrumental in kind of getting us from point A, which would be when they were hired last offseason, to point B, which is now. And even though Rosenberg wasn't the final hire at GM, Jim Nagy was. Taylor Reid was an instrumental part of the offseason process for Oklahoma and the GM search itself, and brings exactly the sort of experience that you would expect for an assistant GM in this kind of role to have. So he was the director of player personnel at Wake Forest for some amount of time before moving on to a scouting position with the New England Patriots for the last 6 seasons. So this is a guy with college experience within a college football front office, as it was known at the time, and also brings a wealth of scouting experience. As far as I know, him and Nagy did not overlap any while they were both with the New England Patriots, because Nagy was already running the Senior Bowl. But you have to imagine that there are voices on both sides here that know each other and brought some of this together. Like I said, brings 6 years of experience as a scout. He's been in the college football game. It sort of is, if you could put all of the factors of a person together, it's sort of exactly what you would expect for an assistant GM in a college role.
Got it. Would you say that like the Athletes Group is a consulting firm for NIL for like colleges to what are they doing?
Yeah, they market themselves as not just for colleges, but NFL programs as well, trying to bring standards and processes, and in this instance with a college, up to 2025 levels, right? So NIL has never been a part of the game the way that it is now. Scouting has never been outsourced to non-coaches to the degree that it probably will be now. The athletes group has helped, especially Oklahoma. I can't speak to other schools in identifying players, in working around NIL numbers. The fair market value of these guys is something you're going to hear a ton of coming into the summer with the House settlement taking place and Deloitte, for some freaking reason, being assigned to determine the fair market value of all these players.
Deloitte, gross.
Deloitte, who wants them? I'm not Deloited by that at all. But they're a consulting firm that it has worked outside of, but for the athletic department, and helped them identify Jim Nagy as the GM candidate, and has helped them even before that hire in some of the ways that they were approaching, like I said, scouting and NIL stuff. Specifically, how much do we pay for X? How much do we pay for Y? Player here and there. So, as far as I know, comes in with almost a full year of experience working with the Oklahoma Sooners football program, even if he hasn't been receiving checks from OU. There's built-in continuity there, and we'll see where it goes from here. I'm very interested to see how they fill out the rest of this thing, be it with scouts, be it with numbers guys. What are they looking for to fill those gaps?
Yeah, and on that topic, my first question is, who's negotiating the deal? Because a scout's top skill is scouting, not negotiating with families and players. So I was actually expecting more of maybe like a business guy around as the assistant GM, not another Jim Nagy #2. However, obviously this is good hire, seems to be a good hire at least, but I do see the gap there of, you can't just hire a bunch of football guys here too. You have to hire some negotiator numbers guys. Yeah.
Well,
Yep, totally
I think that's
agree.
what
Go ahead,
the
Matt.
one
I think
Oklahoma, the one Oklahoma
we're trying to get Matt
NIL.
Gann in the building.
Yeah, I'm here. The one Oklahoma NIL group, I think, will take care of the negotiations. I think what Jim Nagy and now Taylor Redd are really going to do is find the guys that are wanting to come into the building, as well as just the turnover that you're going to continue to see in college football. So I really like the move. It's just another indication that the program is moving toward an NFL front-like office, right? Or a front office model. So bringing guys like Jim Nagy, guys like Taylor Redd, they're going to continue to build out this entire front office, as you want to call it, to continue to have roster management, to find players that maybe are a diamond in the rough, or just continuing, especially with their scouting experience. So it's really all fun and games right now that they're hiring these guys, but we're really, I don't think, going to see the benefit until the first off season or the first scouting cycle to see what this is actually going to look like, right? It's all sounds exciting. It sounds great. You know, what are they currently going to do? I'd love to see like some behind the scenes of actually how this is going to be running, but I think it's all great things leading into a wild, wild west of the NIL landscape.
All of these guys, it seems, are sources for some of our favorite insiders on the OU beat. And so I imagine we will get plenty of the behind the scenes stuff at some point. One thing I'm very interested in is, how do these guys shape the post spring football roster? We have infinity running backs who are probably making more money than they ought to make, right? Do you see some of those guys sent away because this group, no longer the coaches, but this group is determining they aren't worth the dollars we're paying them? And I think it actually gets us into this next thing, if you want to hit on it, Patrick, because there's a lot of good here.
Yeah, let's transition into this week's crystal ball with Jonathan Hatton, a 4-star, 6'1", 215 pounds running back from Cibolo, Texas?
Cibolo,
Texas.
Cibolo. Yep.
Again, to your point, Mark, lots of running backs in that room, lots of money in that room with #1 running back recruit last year, Taylor Tatum. And then some older guys too, with Javante Barnes, Gavin Sawchuk, probably continuing to re-up their NIL deals throughout the year undeservingly, if you'd ask a guy like me. So yeah, a lot of money going in that running back room right now. But what do you think about this crystal ball, Matt, Jonathan had?
Well, he previously obviously committed to Oklahoma back in early October of 2023 before announcing that he was going to potentially look at other schools. So again, this is playing to the theory or to BV's whole mantra that once you're committed, you're committed. So seeing a guy that actually decommitted, reopening his decision, but also keeping Oklahoma within that is kind of a unique situation for Hatton himself. Obviously, from what I've reported, that his own family didn't even realize that he was going to decommit at the time. And so the commitment to OU and then the decommitment, a little bit of a shock. So it'll be really interesting to see, because obviously there's teams like A&M, Ohio State, Tennessee, Alabama that are all in for these guys. And I'm sure the money was probably talking a little bit, and probably why these opportunities have arisen. Again, back in 2023, it feels like a lifetime ago, but obviously a lot of things has changed, and this is going to be one of the premier guys in the 2026 class. So it'll be interesting to see if he recommits or ends up taking an offer elsewhere. But we've talked about a lot of it over the last few years, and DeMarco Murray has done a good job of getting the talent in the room, maybe not utilizing it correctly throughout the season, but we're just going to have to find out as we continue to turn over if some of these guys are going to be left on the roster. Can we continue to get top tier running back talent? But this is going to be an interesting one. A lot of big name players and a very unique situation for Hatton himself.
What I've seen is we're mostly down to kind of a battle with Texas A&M at this point, and we're likely going to lose the NIL game there. Now, what's mostly interesting to me is, can you lose the NIL game by just a little bit because you're putting a ton of resources behind this? And if you do, what does that say for a guy like Caden Jones, who it is from Jinx, Oklahoma, goes to school where our own Mason Prince works, and is between Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Kansas, Louisville, big time schools that are also offering money? How do you take your resources and allocate them to try and get both of these guys in the room? Might not be able to happen like that. If another school says Caden Jones is our number one and Oklahoma says Jonathan Hatton's our number one, the money might not be able to work. So you wonder how that tension plays out between Jonathan Hatton, a guy who is ranked consistently above a Caden Jones in the landscape of running backs, versus that legacy recruit. His dad was an Oklahoma player. People have memories of him there. He's got ties to Oklahoma. Do you put more towards that for that reason? It's an interesting piece. And I think both guys are going to be committing very soon or very close to each other. And it's going to be something to keep an eye on, because I don't think they're going to allocate resources to two top tier running backs like that. But it's obviously a boon for the program if you can get them both in. And this doesn't happen every year. You don't always get two 4-star running backs who might want to be at Oklahoma. So it's an interesting position to be in, I think, if you're new GM Jim Nagy, if you're new assistant GM Taylor Redd. How do you do this? You've gotten a number. How do you spread it out?
See, my thing is, it's a little bit, it kind of reminds me of a few years back with Taylor Tatum and, was it Durham?
Yeah,
last year, Caden Durham. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think this is just going to happen. I think we're going to be in the play for some of these top tier running backs. But when I think of Jim Nagy and some of these guys that we're bringing in that have NFL experience, well, my first thought is, well, we hardly ever pay running backs unless they are top tier. But now we're looking at 18-year-olds coming out of high school. How do we, to Mark's point, fair value these guys coming out who have never played a down in college football? You look at Saquon Barkley, he is clearly the best running back, and deservedly so. But how do you potentially pay these guys coming out of high school? And how many darts are you going to throw and how much money are you going to put in just to the running back core when, more money is going to be allocated to probably wide receivers, defensive linemen, guys that are going to make probably the biggest impact versus a running back who, again, can make a difference, but it's going to be very hard to choose. It'll be interesting to see how they view the running back room moving forward. But you would always like top tier talent. NIL is just going to be a big factor with these guys. I'm just not sure how much they value running backs at this point or how they will view it in the future.
And how does it change between an NFL evaluation versus a college evaluation, right? Because a top tier running back in college football, we just saw it with Ashton Genty. That'll get you to the playoffs on its own. It's a different game necessarily than the NFL version of it. But what does that translate to when you're actually scouting and trying to assign a dollar value to these guys? That's why I think to something, Patrick, you said earlier, Taylor Redd brings in more of a scouting experience than he does that numbers experience. And to our knowledge, these are the only two guys in the front office. How do you marry those two things? How do you take the scouting side of it and we have X number of dollars to spend, this is how we spend it? You're getting into NFL talk, man. That's really what it is. But does positional value change for college football players versus NFL players? It's fascinating. And I think running back is as good an example for one of these things as any other.
Probably the best, besides maybe outside the quarterback room. Yeah.
And that one's crazy, right? Because we see Bo Bentley is a guy that Oklahoma has really put a lot of chips into the middle for. We have a quarterback committed. No one makes more than the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
How are you going to pull two of them? It's something that is, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I think they only want to bring one in, and I think the one is Bo Bentley, but you've got one committed already. So how do you play that game?
Yeah. Yeah. Over Jaden O'Neal. Is that what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who, didn't he go to Alabama last week or Georgia? I can't remember.
Jaden O'Neal went to Georgia and apparently had a great trip. But
sure he did.
My understanding is you're no longer committed, right? So how do they play this thing out? Who do they pay and who do they value in that kind of way? Quarterback's as good as running back for figuring that out, I guess. We're going to see a lot over the coming months because you would imagine all of these recruits would like to have this wrapped up sooner than later.
It'll be very, very interesting. Let's move on to our next fun segment of the podcast. Some news about Waffle House went viral this week. Mark, do you want to explain what happened here in the basketball world?
Yeah, it's the funniest thing in the entire world. Troy basketball head coach was on an interview with radio station KSR Plus where he told the interviewer, we offhand asked them, do you like Waffle House? The answer is yes, we signed them. If it's no, we never get them. And
incredible.
It's such a fun way to read stuff into a commit. And Patrick, I'll let you explain, but I think that there's some ways we can tie this into the Norman, Oklahoma football program.
Absolutely. Yeah, the Troy head coach has asked his staff to slyly discuss Waffle House in conversations with them during their recruitment, and if they like it, then better chance of getting an offer from Troy. But what would be the one restaurant you guys would say, hey, let's talk about this restaurant in Norman, and if they like it, then we'll offer them. If they don't like this type of restaurant or this specific restaurant, they're not getting an offer. They're not going to fit the culture. What's that one restaurant for you guys?
I do think we got to say, Matt, you can't say Charleston's.
No, I wasn't.
It can't be Charleston's.
Still best food in Norman, but I wouldn't take a recruit there by any means. I'll go first. Listen, I'm born and raised in Norman, know Norman like the back of my hands. And I'm thinking about 18-year-old kids, what would be good? What would they potentially like? But also, what fits the culture? And the place that really jumps to mind, and I know Mark will probably have a good few ones as well, but I think the place that sticks out to me is probably Midway Deli. I think the nostalgic, the history, You go in there, you see all the photos, especially of all football players, coaches, everyone's writing their name on the walls. I think that's just the ideal place because I think it represents a lot of what Norman is, which is really a lot of mom and pop shops, a nice, warm community. I think that's what Midway really does. And obviously has been there for a long, long time and hopefully will continue to be that way. So when I think Norman, when I think about what a kid or a football recruit that I would have to like, I think it's got to be Midway for me.
Patrick, did
I
you
like it.
ever go to Midway?
I didn't, but I saw it and I was always like, that looks cute. Just never went in. Not a big sub guy, but I agree.
It's a
That's
kind
why
of a Norman
That's why I didn't
niche,
get an offer.
you know? Yeah, that's why you didn't
That's
get an
why
offer.
I didn't get an offer.
Yeah.
I've also never been to Midway, but same thing. I recognize to Normanites that is a mecca.
Yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
keep going, but
Yeah.
I never went myself. Patrick, what do you have for this one?
I think you got to sneak in the barbecue conversation,
There
right?
it is.
Because Norman's got a few good barbecue spots, Ray's being the best one. But I think you sneak it in, and you definitely sneak it in as a benefit for the guys on the South who don't think Oklahoma barbecue is a known thing. It's sneaky good. Like Oklahoma's not known for barbecue, but there's great barbecue in Norman. And so I think it's both you've got to be a barbecue guy, and it's also if you are a barbecue guy, this place is going to surprise you in some good ways.
No Das Boot? I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, well,
You can't
that's
enjoy a
good
good
too.
boot.
I do think like the kickers, the punters, you bring up German food a little bit.
Just cuz.
Yeah, have to.
So do you have I assume you're saying Ray's specifically. If you got to go
Yes.
to a restaurant, if a guy says he likes Billy Sims barbecue more, is that like a 1B for you? Because he's probably just saying Billy Sims because he knows of Billy Sims.
Yeah, I guess the way I'm thinking about it is the recruit's not going to know the specific restaurants, right? So that's why you got to categorize it as barbecue. Now, if they take 2 trips, we take them to 2 barbecue spots. They're more of a Billy Sims guy. There's judgment, right? There's judgment, but hopefully that makes them just try a little harder.
I like that. It's a factor. It's a factor in it. So I'm going sort of a different direction than that. I'm thinking these guys have been to campus and are able to try these things, you know?
Like it?
And I'm going New York pizza. Because you know these people are going to be on Campus Corner. We were on Campus Corner after games. It's amazing how many times Baker Mayfield gets to Logies before I do. You know, how does that even happen? I walked over here from the stadium. How'd you beat me? Yeah, he took the damn tunnel. He walked in the smoking section of Logies from the tunnel. It's amazing. But where do you land after that? Pickleman's is obviously a no-go. Obviously. Can't have my football players perusing Pickleman's anymore.
No.
That is ground zero, persona non grata. We're not touching it. And so, do you walk around the corner? Do you leave the hustle and bustle of the Yo Pablos and the Logies and the whatever the hell else is there now?
Pepe Delgados.
And do you enjoy? And do you the Pepe Delgados, which is a great call for this exercise too, and go to a little bit quieter around the corner, enjoy some television, enjoy a draft beer, and maybe 2 slices of a pepperoni pizza at NYP. If you can get down with that, you always have a spot on my team. Always, every time.
I like that a lot too, Mark, because that's showing that the guy's going to go out, the guy's going to be in the scene, but he's going to leave the scene early because he's responsible, right? He's going to get the slice of pie and he's going to get home safely. That's the kind of guy you want on your football team. That's the recruit you want to recruit.
I just think, we've seen it go so south at other pizza places on Campus Corner. And I don't think NYP brings you that. I think that it's a place of coming together and enjoying your company. And then as to your point, getting out safe. Maybe you've got a ride. Maybe you expel some stuff on your way to that ride. But but no one worries about it because you're at NYP, not over here along Boyd where it matters.
Yeah, agree. Again, any comments on the New York pizza?
I mean, I think Campus Corner is a solid spot. There's not too many like places I'd probably recommend, but you gotta throw in Pepe's there, just kind of as an honorable mention. Pepe's the Gatos where we go get the Shadows. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Matt, how many times have you been to Pepe Delgado's?
In my lifetime, probably only a handful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know that a friend of the pod, Dog, who
Yes.
doesn't listen,
Mhm. Yes.
is a
Big
true
fan.
adherent.
Yes.
If there was a cult, he's a cultist.
Yes.
But
Big fan.
Uh,
Big fan.
as fun as the vibes are, I can't say I've eaten there more than a couple times myself.
Yeah. Fair enough. But bam. Ain't no
bam.
Waffle House.
Or the Waffle House.
There's 3 in Norman, so why not?
That's nuts. I only know of like 1.
There's 4 Taco Bells in Norman. The place is just...
It's a chain. Yeah, it's Norman.
It's great.
It's college town.
It's an amazing town.
Yeah.
It sure
It's
is.
an amazing town. Where are all the Waffle Houses, Matt? I know the one off of highway.
Main Street, Robinson, and there's one other, I believe, on the east side. I just don't know what the street is. But there's 2 within, I think it's probably like 2 miles, maybe less than that.
That's
actually.
cool.
Yeah, that's Norman, baby.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about one guy who definitely doesn't use Waffle House for recruiting purposes, and that's Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders this week, some fun ideas from Deion Sanders regarding the spring game. Mark, do you want to explain what Deion said?
Oh, sure. So Deion Sanders is on the cutting edge of all of these things. It turns out 2 years ago when he got hired, he was right. We were all wrong. He just signed a 5-star quarterback. Oklahoma did not. Things are going well for him. And in light of all of the schools around the country, Oklahoma included, canceling their spring games, Deion, primetime, this week said in a press conference, hey, we don't want to do that. We want to see if we can get a team out here to Boulder, maybe practice with us for a few days, and let's televise a scrimmage. Let's put on a show for our media partners. I'm sure another team, whoever comes, also gets a cut of that. And we're going to actually do a real competitive thing. The idea is dynamite in theory. I have a lot of thoughts on it, but I'd love to hear what Matt thinks first before I delve too far in.
I mean, it's just becoming more and more like the NFL. It's exactly what NFL does. They do combined practices and then do a scrimmage. And obviously, it works really well in the NFL model. But I also think from a college perspective, I don't know if it makes a whole lot of sense. Again, I think the theory, that sounds really cool that a team, even like a small mid-major or just someone that would pony up or be able to bring their team to go play a Division I. Potentially, or at least practice.
To your point, Syracuse's Fran Brown, the head coach there, and Navy's head coach have both said, they both reached out on Twitter, which I guess is where this all happens now, to say, we would love to come to Boulder. We'd love to come do this. So there's interest out there for it.
Yeah, definitely is. And obviously it's more of a money grab, I think, because media and everyone else would be in on it. It'd be especially if a bigger school came into Colorado, you got a lot of these highly talented kids before the preseason showing what they're made of. I mean, I guess in theory it makes sense, but I don't think it's anywhere near what the NFL is, and that's what it's trying to be like.
I think it's a great idea. It can just be a week. 3 practices. You can even allow the other team to have individual practices by themselves on your field at different times, right? So you're just practicing once or twice together for show, just for fun. Lower schools that don't make a lot of money, maybe you bring them in, and it's a good opportunity for them to get some dough out of it as well. I think it's a great idea. And then Saturday, why not? Why not do a scrimmage of some sort in the stadium with fans there? And also, how fun would it be as you're a fan, like traveling to a different university and going to this game too? I think what else are you doing in the spring? There's not anything on.
Especially if you make a week wide, thing of it. Oh, these practices are open when we're scrimmaging the other team just during the day, not the official scrimmage, but you can come watch us, chop it up with another team. Here's why you don't do it, because these NIL contracts are so freaking fickle. That's the reason. I am not taking my freshmen and my sophomores to Boulder, Colorado, maybe the most beautiful place in the entire country, to hear from Deion Sanders for an entire week and then make plays in that scrimmage and then tell them you're still sitting behind Deion Burks. Can't do it, because those guys are going to have prime time in their ear the entire way, telling them, nope, you could come make a difference here. You could come do things here. And we've got a little bit more NIL money than your team right now does. I think that college football has to get to a place where we're locking these down more before I'm comfortable ever showing Manny Choice or Elijah Thomas to what Prime has to offer at Colorado, because we know what we have there. We scouted these guys, got them in the building, and just because you're going to lose out on some snaps freshman year, I can't afford to have you showing your stuff in front of all of these coaches. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the main reason I would be against it. I think it's also injuries, but I know there's also limitations on how much hours you can actually practice and train throughout weeks as well. So until there's more regulation, until there's a little bit more of a I guess a guideline for how off season can go, I don't think this is just going to be possible from that standpoint, a logistics standpoint, because you got to think about travel, extra money, which again probably could be funded by NIL, but there will be, and obviously contracts with the media corporations, which again I don't think would be a very difficult thing to do, but it's too much of a wild, wild west right now. There's too much deregulation for college football. So cool idea, just don't think it could be implemented as of right now in the current landscape.
You can't tell your guy he can't enter the portal. That's all, Pat.
Yeah. Ultimately, we're paying more. We're seeing the teams less, and someone's got to continue coming up with fun ideas like Deion Sanders is, and maybe at some point we do have a fun solution for the spring. Anything else on Deion's beautiful idea before we move on to circling the wagons?
Beautiful home, by the way. Beautiful home.
Yeah. His video of his backyard came out today as well. I was unimpressed. The pool did not have like a water fountain feature. And that was just odd to me. If you're going to be Deion Sanders, really rich, big pool, no waterfall, not my vibe.
No one finds critiques with something great the way Patrick does. Pat looked at the Sports Illustrated cover of Kate Upton and said, "Not for me." I remember this because we fought about it plenty. No one finds those issues the way Pat does. You're not wrong, but I'd live with that backyard, no waterfall.
Full basketball court, full football field, beautiful scenery. We didn't even see the home. We just saw the backyard.
Just the backyard.
So, yeah.
He's got the infinity pool inside, actually. That's where Deion has it.
All right, Gan. Let's talk some Oklahoma sports.
Wagons.
Yeah, wagon.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely some good updates. I'll talk through the Diamonds first. So OU softball and baseball are combined 44-2. I'm going to say that again. 44-2 across the two Diamonds. That's a pretty dominant start by both programs, which we knew softball, obviously coming off 4 national championships in a row. We're just going to reload the talent, and it'd be a little bit of, hey, what is the team going to look like since we graduate some of the seniors? They have not missed a beat, and OU baseball has a lot of good talent. Please be on the watch out. I'll talk a little bit more specifically about probably the most electric picture on OU's baseball team. But let's start with softball, who are still undefeated, sitting at 26-0. They beat Tulsa 10-2 in 6 innings. Sam Landry, who was previously injured, did pinch in that game, and then she went on to pitch in the 3-game series sweep. You heard that, sweep of Arkansas, winning 7-0, 6-4, and 10-7. So still undefeated in SEC play. Again, this was Patty facing her son, DJ Gasso, who's on the Arkansas staff, very similar to last year when OU played Utah when he was also there. And what's great about this team is that they are so resilient. You know, they are giving up quite a few runs. Outside of Sam Landry, there's a little bit of iffiness and not as much consistency with the pitching staff. Hopefully that will only get better. But in the last game of the series, when OU already won 2, they've already won the series, still looking for blood. You know, they were down 3-0. They scored 6 in the second. Arkansas hits back. They score 2 to get it within 6-5. But what OU has done so consistently, not just in this series, but throughout the games, is they punch right back. They answer. And so they come back with 2 more that next inning and win and go on to win 10-7. So there's been multiple times where this team has been down. They've come back, or a team has come back on them. They've tied it up. And this team has just had no sweat. They have been able just to continue to play. And this maturity is well beyond the years of this team so far. Just always have clutch hitting and clutch pitching when needed. Again, when you're playing in the best conference in the nation, this is exactly what you're going to continue to need. But Patty Gasso's girls are continuing to figure out different ways to win this year. And they're just going to have to continue to do so. And so they will have a upcoming series with somebody. I'll get that information here in just a second. But switching over to the OU baseball Diamond, who again are 18-2. They recently beat Louisiana Tech 9-5, while also playing their first game series against, South Carolina, I believe. Yes, they won the first game 8-5. They actually ended up losing the second game in South Carolina 11-5. And then in that rubber match, the Sooners rallied from a 2-run deficit with 2 outs in the 9th inning to force extras. Then a solo home run from sophomore Jason Walk at the top of the 10 completed the comeback and gave OU the win of the series. So OU baseball continuing as they're entering SEC play. Again, probably the best conference in baseball itself, looking really solid as they continue to go out through the year. But I did want to highlight one of the pitchers that is probably leading or is leading the current pitching staff, and that's right-handed pitcher Kyson Witherspoon. Something of one of a draft prospects highlighted his play. It says one of the most electrifying arms in the 2025 MLB class, has steadily risen up the boards thanks to his premium velocity, dominant fastball slider combination, and is just a high octane weapon with all the different types of pitches that he has. Currently projected as maybe the 2nd or 3rd top pitcher in his class currently. So to have a guy with that type of prospect playing for Oklahoma is just a deadly combination as OU wants to continue to compete in such a highly talented conference. So they're going to need to rely on his arm quite a bit moving forward. And just to give you a schedule update, softball is going to play East Texas A&M and Missouri in their upcoming. But guys, softball, baseball, what is more impressive at this point to you guys, being 44-2 overall? What's kind of sticking out to you both?
OU baseball, man. I think that we knew, even though the wider public did not expect Oklahoma softball to just reload and get back at it the way that they did, we knew what Patty Gasso was. We knew what this team was. They don't rebuild, they refresh. And just like hitting refresh on a page and seeing your notifications come up, they hit refresh and they've got an undefeated record come up. It's not hard to deduce that they're going to do stuff like that. What is incredibly impressive is what Oklahoma baseball is doing. Year 1 in the SEC, and they're competing with the best of the best. 2 losses so far. I mean, long season to go still, tournament on the way at the end of it, but couldn't be more impressed with the production so far, the performances so far out of Oklahoma baseball. Kyson Weatherspoon, to your point, my goodness. I mean, we
Let's watch.
we knew his name going into the season as someone to watch for, but someone to watch for and then ace pitcher is a leap. That's a leap that I think only the most baseball savvy among us could have seen coming, and that's not me. So very impressive stuff out of the baseball team. Pat?
Yeah, you know, staying cautiously optimistic about the baseball team. They have had to play some good teams, but they're also playing some smaller schools as well. So I'm not looking at it necessarily from a record perspective totally yet to get excited, but I think the momentum they have is really great. So awesome for that. And then softball. Come on. We're always number one.
Always. Until someone beats us, what are they going to do? Got to continue to have us number one and
They're
number
gonna put us
one for
third at the beginning of the year.
Right, absolutely. So OU baseball coming off that walk-off win against South Carolina, play UT Arlington. They beat them also in a walk-off in 9 innings, beating them 7-6, and then we'll take on a 3-game series at Eldell Mitchell Park in Norman, Oklahoma, against Mississippi State this weekend. So good luck to continue the both Diamonds. Talking about more postseason play, let's talk about women's basketball, who finished the year losing in the SEC tournament in the second round, but getting the number 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. They will play Florida Gulf Coast, who is 30-3, this upcoming Saturday, March the 22nd. Funny enough, this was OU women's opponent last year when OU women was number 5 and Florida Gulf Coast was 13. Is that right? 5 plays 14, 13. No, 12. Sorry. 12. And they beat Florida Gulf Coast barely 73-70. Now, a little bit different last year. Florida Gulf Coast got rid of their coach, has a new coach under their belt this year. They won the Atlantic South Championship just last week. They really like to spread the floor and drive the basketball, and they are led by Imani Jefferson for the Lady Eagles, scoring 14 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists. This has been the kryptonite for OU women's basketball. They have a tough time dealing with highly skilled guards. So Imani Jefferson, the one to look out for. I believe the spread was in OU's favor. I believe it was 14.5. I could be wrong. I believe it is double digits, but still going to be a tough test for Oklahoma women's basketball going forward as they play the same opponent as they did last year. And I don't think I saw on the side of the bracket who their number 1 is. So if someone wants to look up who the number 1 seed is, but looking forward to Jenny B hopefully having a good run into the tournament before they face some of those more elite talent in the field.
14.5 is right on the spread.
14.5. Okay. So good luck to OU women's basketball as they tip off in the NCAA tournament this upcoming Saturday. So good luck to Jenny B and the girls. Switching over to the other side, OU men's basketball again losing in the SEC tournament to Kentucky, who they fell short to in the regular season just a few weeks ago. Patrick, you were texting in the group text. Can you describe what happened in the last few plays, or really the last minute? Because OU was down by what, 10 points or 6 points?
I think we were down 7 points with 1 minute to go. We were then up 1 point with 6 seconds left, and Kentucky gave it to the right guy, and we decided to just not defend him. I guess, I don't know. 6 seconds left. Come on, baby, you gotta do something there. Don't let him shoot. Don't let him shoot. That's defense. But we let him shoot and lost that game with 6 seconds left.
Well, when your head coach is thinking about the Villanova job, he might miss some things.
Yeah, it is tough with just a few weeks ago. It's the same guy, Otega Owe, who was obviously a former OU basketball player, beating us in Norman, and then getting the ball at the very last second in the SEC tournament and driving down the floor, which obviously he had some pressure on him, but definitely not clearly did enough of a good job because he was the guy to get the ball and ended up making a layup on the other end. Obviously, tough shot, a lot of credit to him, but the one guy beating us twice at the last second, especially when OU came from a very improbable comeback in that game in the last minute or so to potentially pull that one out. Pretty gut-wrenching, but also has really just been the epitome of what OU basketball has gone through. They're so close, but yet so far at the same time. Regardless of that, they played well enough to get a higher seed. They were actually projected to be double digit, but after beating Texas and Georgia to end the season, they did get a number 9 seed. But they have a very, very tall task ahead. And I don't really see them getting out of the first round. They have to play back to back defending champ in UConn. Now, UConn is definitely not the same team as the last 2 years. But guys, even if they get past UConn, they got to play number 1 seeded Florida, who might be one of the
If Florida
hands-on
wins.
favorite. If Florida wins, and they should, because they are an electric team, but would have to potentially play a Florida in the next round. How are you guys feeling about UConn and then potentially the next round, even if we were to get there?
Look, I don't want anyone to call it a Cinderella story when it happens. That's how I'm feeling.
Wow.
You know what I
Amazing.
mean?
Amazing.
This Oklahoma team, like you mentioned, Matt, is just losing close games, not getting the one or two little things right at the end of the game. You fix that, you go to the Final Four. There's no in between. There's no in between.
The Final Four, you heard it here, Patrick.
If you fix it, but we're probably going to go out to UConn pretty quick. Pretty quick.
I think my thing is the seeding is very tough. Oklahoma's a 5.5 point underdog to UConn, and that's probably about right.
Yeah.
That said, a win in that game wouldn't shock me. It does come down to that next round, right? To the field of 32 where you're playing Florida, man. If you got a 7 seed, maybe you're looking at a Sweet 16 run, but you're getting into this, you start playing Florida, that's going to be a different ball game, and that's not just we play it tight and maybe it happens at the end. This is real ball. This is real ball at Florida. One thing that I saw this week, we spend more on our basketball program than Florida does. And so that's one of those things I think you should take a look at with some of this, because there are gains to be made on the Oklahoma basketball side of things if you just doge it the right way and start to use your funds the most efficient way possible. All of that aside, probably would not take Oklahoma against Florida if they are to overcome the UConn matchup.
Yeah, and again, like I said, UConn definitely not the same team as the last few years. Definitely have had their struggles, a lot of turnover on their roster, rightfully so, right? They've had a lot of NBA talent or a lot of talent that has moved on outside of the university, but this team does struggle defensively, so there is going to be opportunities for Fears and some of these other guys. It's more of, can somebody else except for Fears get loose? Because Fears right now is the only double-digit scorer as of late. And if UConn does anything, and they should, is pretty much if they can contain Fears, they're going to win this game. So it wouldn't surprise me if they win handedly, but OU does have an opportunity here with UConn struggles and can definitely put a stamp into their season if they were to beat the back-to-back defending champs. I think that would solidify, and I think it maybe already has, that Moser's going to continue to be around. But if they get a butt smacking here, I don't know how you do it.
I always think back to, and this is super random, but when the Frank Kaminsky Wisconsin team took on the Anthony Davis Kentucky team. And obviously Anthony Davis is #1 prospect. He goes #1 overall to the New Orleans. Were they the Pelicans yet, or were they still the Hornets at that time? In any event, probably the Pelicans at that time. These teams that are established, they've got more continuity. They know how to play basketball at a little bit higher level. Is Jeremiah Fears enough to overcome that, or can the rest of the roster pick up their game to supplement enough? We saw it with Trae Young. That's a first-round exit, So it'll be interesting to see if a freshman guard can lead the team past that.
Yep, well, it'll be interesting. But they play this Friday night, so be on the lookout for OU men's basketball. moving forward. But just to give you an update on OU women's basketball bracket, the number 1 seed in their Spokane region is USC, but at the bottom of the bracket, which they would potentially have to face in the Sweet 16, would be number 2 UConn. So Oklahoma definitely women's basketball has a pretty tough road ahead, and they would potentially have to play Iowa or Murray State if they were to beat Florida Gulf Coast this weekend. So obviously good luck to both basketball teams in the postseason. Quick update for men's gym. They are 14-1. They beat William and Mary in Greensville, and they are heading to the NPSF championships in Colorado Springs, Colorado, but that won't happen until April 5th, so they'll have a break for a few weeks. Women's gym getting another big win before SEC championships against Georgia, beating them 198-197, and they will go to Birmingham, Alabama to compete against LSU, Missouri, and Florida this upcoming weekend. So good luck to both gymnastic teams in their postseason runs. Women and men's tennis, both sitting at 10-6, 11-4, but struggling in conference play. Men's tennis 3-4, women's tennis 4-3. Men's tennis currently on a losing streak, losing to Auburn and South Carolina. They will look to bounce back against the Bulldogs of Georgia this weekend. Women's tennis beating Kentucky, but then losing to the Lady Volunteers 4-3. They will look to bounce back against number 25 South Carolina, but then they will play number 1 Georgia the game after. So it'll be a real true test for women's tennis moving forward. Men's golf recently placed 8th in the Puma Valley Invitational. That happened in San Diego after last weekend. They were +7 overall. They really struggled in the opening and closing rounds. And so that really led them to their 8th place finish. And they will compete in the Valspar Collegiate held Monday and Tuesday at the Floridian National Golf Club in Palm City, Florida. Man, it must really suck to play golf in these horrible places. So, but good luck to men's golf moving forward. That is a Circle of Whack Hands update.
On the ladies basketball side of things, if Ginny's team can get past Paige Buckers at UConn and then Juju Watkins at USC, this basketball program is even more up there than we are already thinking it is. Like, this is great trajectory already, but if you can somehow knock off both of those, you're doing really well.
Yeah, we've definitely been, the women's basketball team, generally speaking, just loses the game they're supposed to lose in March Madness, which is not what we want to see this year. So hopefully we can pull it off this year. But if not, you're right. Trajectory is still good. Let's move on to the MVPs of the week. Mark, let's start with you.
Yep, I'm going to do a classic of mine. Matt Gann, your Green Bay Packers are my LVP. For all the noise and for all the hate that the tush push has gotten, only one team actually submitted a proposal to the NFL Rules Committee to ban the tush push. That was the Green Bay Packers this offseason. And yeah, it just goes to say, this isn't your grandpa's Green Bay Packers, right? Brett Favre would have popped a couple of things and then just done the work, Seems that the Green Bay Packers of 2025 are not really ready to do the work against a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, Super Bowl champs, who have redefined what a 4th and 1 looks like behind Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, and now, they signed someone who is good. I don't remember. It's not Kenny Gainwell. I know he's there, but in any event, perhaps the softest move we've seen in the NFL in several years. And for that reason, LVP Green Bay Packers trying to ban the tush push.
Let me ask you guys this. Would you like to continue to see the tush push or a different, would you guys agree that it should be an NFL play?
Yeah, you shouldn't ban anything that's not illegal in the run of play as a play. They're not doing anything illegal, in my opinion, and you shouldn't make it illegal.
My thought is the tush push is more football than the forward pass. So yeah, you don't ban the tush push, man. It's just dudes pushing other dudes forward. That's what football is. If everyone on the offensive and defensive line can do it, the guys behind the quarterback can do it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about it.
I'm kind of with the Packers on this one, actually.
I just think it's more of a rugby move, and all of the momentum is going forward. So yes, it has been stopped, but what is their conversion rating? Like it's got to be like 90+% at this point for all 4th and 1s or 4th and inches. It's almost an impossible play to stop, and it's not really, in my opinion, a true football play, because all you're doing is snapping and then just having a guy literally push you with all of his force momentum moving forward. It's just not a real football play, in my opinion. Now, again, as it's clearly still being implemented, use it all you want. And obviously the Eagles have perfected it because they have Jalen Hurts, who can bench leg squat 600 pounds. So it's probably going to be pretty hard to stop them. But there's no other teams that are currently doing it because they can't do it as well as the Eagles. So as long as it's still in play, it's still in play. I don't really agree that it's an actual football play.
To change my mind, I think there's got to be like 15 teams doing it, and it's really changing most games that I'm watching. But there's only one team that's mastered it, so kudos to them. Don't punish them for that.
Yeah, I don't think they will.
Imagine outlawing, hey, Kyler Murray, you're not allowed to run on this play. You're just not allowed. No one else has an athlete like you.
Back
no one else has the power that you do.
Yeah, right.
Just kills me. Just kills me. Soft as hell.
All right, Matt, who's your MVP of the week?
I'm going to go for the time of the year, March Madness. You really can't go wrong when Thursday comes around, the opening day, the first games are playing, and you just don't know what's going to happen. I also believe the dispersion of talent in college basketball is a lot more equally divided between the teams. So it's really, truly anybody's game that can go out there. There can clearly be a 12 or a 13 or a 10 seed. There's always a big double-digit seed that causes an upset. It's the best tournament, I think, of all the tournaments you can ask for because of just all the upsets and the brackets being shattered. It is just, I think, the best time of the year for sports, or at least for college basketball. Not that I watch a ton, but I'm going to watch the hell out of some college basketball throughout the next few weeks and over the course of the month. So I'll give it up for March Madness as my MVP.
Me and my boss are planning on leaving work early tomorrow.
Hell yeah.
We've commandeered a group. We're going to go to Katie Trail Ice House.
Oh,
we're going to watch some ball in the afternoon. Can't ask for a better Thursday, man.
Finance bros, man. That's the best.
Sort of, kind of.
Love it. My MVP is going to be the United States math team. They beat China for the first time in about 20 years. So,
who needs the Department of Education?
Right. Not us. It seems.
Us, baby.
All right. Well, that'll do it. Remember to like and subscribe to the Program Guys podcast. Follow us on all of our social medias, Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok, and subscribe on YouTube. It helps us more than you know.
Helps us.
All right. Mark, take us out.
Keep pushing it, baby.
3, 2, 1.
There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.